Welcome to Direct Approach, a bi-weekly podcast hosted by Wayne Moorehead, as we celebrate our 100th episode with a special sit-down with DSN founder and CEO, the legendary Stuart Johnson. As always, the Direct Approach is jam-packed with timely insights, fresh perspectives, and actionable takeaways to help fuel the growth and evolution of your business. In this episode, Wayne interviews Stuart Johnson, a 40-year industry veteran known as the CEO Whisperer. Stuart reveals his incredible journey from distributor to influential consultant, quietly shaping the success of some of the biggest names in direct selling. Discover his strategies for building trust, maintaining momentum, and navigating change amidst fierce competition. Stuart also shares his insights on emerging growth markets and the critical shifts companies must make to stay relevant. Our special 100th episode is a must for leaders looking to stay ahead of industry changes and lead with confidence. But before we begin, we'd like to thank this episode's sponsor, Exego.
Today, running a direct selling company can feel overwhelming, like juggling 1,000 things at once. What if there was a tool that could scale to handle the heavy lifting and help reduce operational costs at the same time? Exego is that tool. The Exego platform is a suite of software that automates and speeds up commissions, streamlines operations, improves reporting, and offers the flexibility companies crave. With Exego, clunky, rigid, in-house software becomes a modern and efficient platform, allowing businesses to focus on what matters most: growth and making world-changing products. Join the hundreds of other MLM companies who trust Exego to improve their tech stack and boost their bottom line. Visit exego.com to learn more.
Now let's welcome your host, Wayne Moorehead, and his guest, Stuart Johnson.
Hello and welcome to a very special episode of DSN's Direct Approach podcast. I am your host, Wayne Moorehead, and today's episode is special for two reasons. The first, this marks our 100th episode, pretty hard to believe. And also, we have a very special guest today. It's someone that we all know, even though his preference is always to operate behind the scenes. He is arguably the person that has had the greatest collective impact on direct selling over the past 3 or 4 decades. He owns and operates the flagship publication and news source for the channel, as well as the most impactful and attended events, DSU, which we have coming up here in a few weeks. I am talking about none other than my close friend, Stuart Johnson. Stuart, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, my pleasure. My honor. So excited to be here with you today, Wayne, and so excited to be talking on the 100th episode of Direct Approach in the 4 years that's transpired since we started this wonderful venture. So
I know. I can't believe it's been almost 4 years. We're 100 episodes in, and I've been fortunate to know you and to be able to call you a friend for many years now. So I've been able to get a peek behind the curtains, maybe more than others might, at the inner workings of DSN and DSU. And while everyone for sure knows the great impact that DSN and DSU have had, they probably don't know the full extent to which you have advocated and advised so many individuals, companies, and the channel as a whole. So on behalf of all of us in direct selling, I just want to say thank you for all you've done. Thank you for being our incredible champion to helping to elevate the game and the channel for all of us. Definitely direct selling and the entire community would be a very different place without you. So thank you for all you've done and appreciate everything.
well, thank you for the kind words. It's again, it's an honor and a pleasure to serve and to be a champion for the industry for 40 years. So thank you.
Yeah, it's incredible. So I remember when, and I've told this story a couple of times on the podcast, but I remember when you initially reached out about doing the podcast. As you know, being on stage, et cetera, is not always my favorite. I usually try to slip you a 20 to get off stage or get out of being on stage. But I was really honored that you reached out. And if I'm being honest, I thought, 3 or 4 episodes in, you would kindly ask me to retire and say that you're going in a different direction. But I really appreciate on a personal level the trust that you've had in me and trusting this podcast and this platform that DSN has created. It's really been an incredible experience for me to be able to interview all the great leaders, the brightest minds in the channel. It's really been life-changing for me. So personally, I want to thank you as well.
Well, thanks, Wayne. And I can say that I'm so glad that you accepted the challenge, because you were my only choice and thought at the role. So thank you, and excited. And you have exceeded my expectations and done a fabulous job here on the podcast, and just everything that's gone down with the what we've been able to accomplish with the audience, and being great champions of direct selling.
Well, thank you. It has been a credible experience for me. So I always start out by asking guests if you can tell a little bit about the path that led you into the direct selling channel, and yours is truly an incredible and inspiring story. So please.
Thanks. No, it's short version. So I was an entrepreneur from the age of 11, and 15 years old, I was detailing somebody's car, and he tried to recruit me into Amway, and he exposed me to personal development, and I got to read Think and Grow Rich and Magic of Thinking Big and Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude at 15. And I have to say then, and looking back, that it changed my life. I don't know what I would have done or who I would have been if it hadn't have been for that, unbelievable fortune to have been exposed to both Amway and personal development. I explored direct selling in high school subsequent to that. And then a few years later, I actually went to go visit a friend of mine that I'd met in that exploration, who was the top distributor for a company. And I saw a challenge and an opportunity, and I designed a professional long distance sponsoring kit for him and his company with a video cassette, an audio cassette, and forms and brochures. And it was beautiful, professional, nice image. And I went to the home office of the company, United Sciences of America. Some people may remember, but that was 1986, January, that I went down and visited with the CEO and COO, Ray Grimm, who we also all know. Ray's still in the channel as well. And I asked him if I could have permission to use the logo to make 5,000 of these long distance sponsoring kits for my friend, his top distributor. And he said, yeah, and while you're at it, would you make 5,000 of them for me here at the company? So that's my origin story. I've been on the supply side of direct selling and network marketing ever since. And that's been 40 years ago, as crazy as it seems.
It's incredible. I always find it so interesting.
21 years old. I mean, that's the even more crazy part. I left high school at 17, no college, did get a GED, but yeah, it's a fun story.
Yeah, it's really inspiring, and I find it really interesting, and honestly, I'm grateful that you came in to direct selling really with kind of the support side in mind, and saw that opportunity. And it sounds like you took that first initial project with the company, and you turned it into supporting, the entire channel with similar products and offerings. And again, you've owned so many businesses and had so many offerings throughout the history of your entrepreneurship in the channel. Can you give us a quick overview of what some of those were? So coming in with some of the cassette and creating the kits, and then where did you take it from there?
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, it's been a roller coaster. So it certainly was not all one direction, as you well know, having been close for a number of years. But yeah, we started out on the collateral side and the long distance sponsoring. We were doing some video production, which of course back then was VHS cassettes and then audio cassettes. And eventually that went over into CDs and DVDs, which we manufactured for some time. We got involved in custom publishing in the early 2000s, and we published Success from Home, which everybody remembers if they were around during that time, which was a great business. I started Direct Selling News in 2004, so just over 20 years ago, really the only trade journal at the time, and still the dominant, obviously, source of education and journalism today for the channel 20 years later. And I always wanted to be in the personal development space for obvious reasons. I was a student of personal development, a product of personal development, and I ended up having the opportunity to buy Success Magazine in 2007 and Success.com, and spent 13 years as the owner and CEO of that, and till waking up one morning and realizing that owning a consumer brand was not exactly a thrill, and I enjoyed owning Success but not running it. So I sold Success in 2020 to Glenn Sanford, chairman, founder of eXp Realty, and it's been an incredible ride. Now we have, I was there for the personal computer, I was there for the internet, for smartphones, for mobile apps, and obviously now the business is online, whether it's social media or streaming or all types of other opportunities that the internet's brought us. So it's been an incredible ride for 40 years. You have to
Yep.
you have to understand what transformation is, because if you're not changing, you're definitely you're not gonna survive.
Absolutely. I think you and all of the products and businesses you've run are an incredible example of continuing to innovate, continuing to pivot. And as the technology changed, a couple name changes with the business as well.
Yeah, of course. Video Plus. Then we managed to go over to Success Partners when I owned Success, and then I sold Success. So then we pivoted over to Direct Selling Partners. So it's Direct Selling News has obviously been Direct Selling News for 20 years. I think the history of the products and the services and what we did to serve the channel was important. But I mean, I really, what's really built the business and the contributions that I and the individuals on the team over the years have made is really the relationships that we were able to forge. And so many friends and colleagues and clients have really been the canvas of my career. And I've enjoyed getting to know literally hundreds of CEOs and owners and executives, and that's obviously the part that I enjoy the most. It's what keeps me going 40 years later, and still wanting to contribute and wanting to grow those relationships and develop them. So it's I've always thought of myself as more of the kingmaker, not the king. As you've already said, I'm not the one that tries to get the public spotlight. 100 episodes to get me on the podcast, so thanks for your persistence and the staff. Ironically, it's also my first podcast I've ever recorded. Appropriately, it's ours. But a lot of people say that in this business there's a lot of room backstage. So I think that's I enjoy backstage more than I enjoy being on the stage. And so it's been a great ride, and had an opportunity to be a CEO whisperer to so many just great, amazing people along the way that have impacted millions of lives around the world. So.
Absolutely. I think that speaks a lot to your heart, to your leadership style. You've never really approached the business from a product standpoint, but as you mentioned, from a relationship standpoint. And again, I know that that's really been able and allowed you to have such an incredible impact because of all these incredible relationships. It is relationship first. Again, I know personally, I probably couldn't even count how many phone calls you're on a day with people, outside of anything, DSN related. But as you mentioned, being the CEO whisperer, the career counselor, playing chess, playing 3D chess in the background on behalf of all of us. And actually, that's how, I started out, the first time, actually, my first exposure was really through DSN. I was at a very large public direct selling company, and having DSN, the news, the information, having that in the lobbies on all the floors, that was something that every month when DSN dropped, people would kind of arm wrestle over the copies of DSN to really understand and know what's going on in the channel. And almost every time, I think people would flip to the who's going where. This executive has just joined this company, or, new CEO with this company. And from the beginning, it's been an incredible way for us to stay informed and connected. And then also for me, going to another company and calling you saying, again, one of the first phone calls once I joined this company is, we need help. We need collateral. We need messaging. We need positioning. We need all these things. And it even grew to the extent, I think people also don't know the extent to which all of those products and the work and effort for us, it even involved a helicopter in the Amazon for one of our videos that was still to this day, I think, one of the best recruiting videos that's ever been in the channel. But again, I know it always comes back to relationships, and that's really the ability that you've had to make such a huge impact stems from that.
Yeah, that's funny. My fondest memory of that relationship is the 11-day Mediterranean cruise. It was actually referred to as the cruise that never ended. But I got to take my daughter Laura with me, and get to spend time with all the amazing leaders of that company, and it was just unforgettable memories from that experience. So
it is, yeah, and you've definitely seen it all, and you've helped kind of look around the corners and keep us informed of what's coming down the pike year after year. And it's been especially important the last probably 5 years or so. As you know better than anybody, there's been a tremendous amount of change, a tremendous amount of challenges and opportunities that have come with that. And I'm curious, digging into the podcast now and some of the meat of it. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on where we're at in some really key areas. First, I'd love to touch on the competitive landscape. So there's definitely been a lot of changes there. We're not competing with each other, but competition is so fierce right now. And I'm interested to hear a little bit from you of where we're at.
Yeah, no problem. You mentioned that I've seen it all. My quote is that I haven't seen it all, but I've certainly seen more than most. So
Yeah.
it's been a great 40 years. I think the last 10 years really have been significant as you go all the way back to 14, and the channel domestically was flat going into COVID, and then it's been a really wild ride in the 5 years since COVID, with the roller coaster that we've been through with the COVID bump and then the COVID fall, and then subsequent to that to going back to the basics, and here where we are today in early 25. But that's affected the markets differently in different segments, different parts of the market. The domestic products business has been flat over a 10-year period, not counting inflation. So if you factor in inflation, then the domestic products category is down significantly. And, the COVID bump happened in 2020 and the first half of 21, and then the government money stopped and the economy shrunk, and everybody kind of held on to their pocketbook, and the business of direct selling, like many others, found itself in a decline from the back half of 21 all the way through 22, 23, 24. So, but it's also at the same time that we got into what you've mentioned, which was the competitive nature, where Amazon is doing over $1 trillion worth of commerce. I mean, they're the 8,000 or 800,000 pound gorilla in the space. They've taught people where to go to search for products. They've taught people where to go to buy them and get free shipping. So they're our friend and our foe. We use them for branding to help, protect our brand, protect our pricing. But still, they've changed the landscape of shopping, and also all the other global platforms around the world. But at the same time, we saw, literally thousands of opportunities for people to have supplemental income, a side hustle, a sidepreneur, to be able to create multiple streams of income, where 10, 20 years ago, there weren't that many ways for you to make a little bit of a side hustle, sidepreneur income. Direct selling was one of the more popular places. So between the competition on the product side, from what's going on with Amazon and the other thousands of DTC brands out there, and competing for people that are out there earning money in 1,000 different ways today, it's just really been a much more difficult and challenging environment for direct sellers. That's obviously led to what we've seen the last 12 months with all the negative news and all of the things that have come into the channel, with companies closing, bankruptcies, companies pivoting over to affiliate models. And, it's been an ugly news cycle for 12 months now. But the competitive landscape is here to stay. It's just only going to get, more difficult for us. And we're going to have to continue to innovate and really understand what we need to do to grow the direct selling businesses individually and collectively.
Yeah, Amazon and many of the other technology platforms have really forced us to change in so many ways. Amazon being, for most people, the first stop from a product search. And you really helped share the idea of all of us being on Amazon. Many CEO forums ago at DSU, that was really one of the hottest topics, where we were all scared to even touch that third rail of Amazon. But through, I think, advising, through the discussions with all the CEOs, helping us understand kind of the important role that it plays in the purchase decision and the awareness process, and taking that defensive approach. And now everybody, now all of us, I shouldn't say everybody, but now all of us are on Amazon or getting there.
Yeah, can you imagine going back into that CEO forum 5, 6 years ago and going like, okay, 5 years from now, 80% of you in the room are going to have your products on Amazon, and you're going to be happy about it, and your field's going to understand why you're doing it, and it's going to be a very successful strategy for you. I mean, they probably would have got up and walked out the door. They thought I was crazy. So, yeah, it's interesting. So, again, it just needs the proper education, explanation, discussion, observation, pointing out successful opportunities, and understanding how to emulate them.
Yeah, and doing it in the right way. I'm really impressed with how flexible and understanding the field is. And now they're asking us to be in those places, to show up where other products are, because of that awareness. But it really also helped us up our standard, and from a technology, from a shopping, from an e-commerce experience, I know we're going to chat about here in a few minutes. And you mentioned all of the different side hustles. And even within the side hustles, there are so many kind of multi-tier compensation structures that it's really forcing us to understand our value proposition, that sense of community. Every other D2C brand is one and done, but that long-term relationship that I know that you espouse, and that community, the personal development, is really what can set us apart and provide incredible opportunities. I mean, we've earned the right more than anyone, we meaning direct selling, to really be the leader in this social selling space. And again, I know that, through all of these events and advising, you've really helped us to get there. You mentioned.
Absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No. I'm just, certainly we still understand the differentiation for us as being in the team building business, inspiring people to build their businesses, to become leaders, grow organizations, and be compensated for it. And that's the fundamental difference between, building a direct selling network marketing business, or going and becoming an affiliate in an affiliate model, or doing something else in the gig economy as another stream of income.
So Stuart, you mentioned some of the companies that are pivoting, some of the companies that have even left the channel. In part, that's being driven, or maybe their hand is being forced really by, on the financial side, if they've brought in private equity and others. What has the impact been of that capitalization model within direct selling?
First, it's important to point out that, many of the companies that had to close or pivoted over to an affiliate model, the owners, founders didn't come from direct selling. They weren't passionate, so to speak, about direct selling. So it's not a complete surprise that they're some of the ones that have decided to leave the channel. There are also some of the ones that, owners that took cash off the table when they brought private equity in. So they're not innocent in what's gone on or what's happened with their companies subsequently with private equity being involved. But, private equity has gotten in so many companies in the last 10, 20 plus years, and they normally bring debt with them, which can be problematic. They obviously have a timeline to exit and to have another liquidity event, which obviously can be problematic, knowing that direct selling can be cyclical and can be a ride, and it's not always up. And when you have a deadline that you need to exit, that's not always provides the best opportunity for everybody. So the biggest stories of last year were, we started out with Beauty Counter in the spring, and then Rodan and Fields in the summer, and Beachbody in the fall. And, Beauty Counter owner sold to a piece of the company to TPG, private equity, and then they subsequently sold the company to Carlyle Group at $1 billion valuation in 21. And that story's been well documented, many mistakes that the private equity people at Carlyle made in hiring the wrong CEO, and decisions on the comp plan and retail. And, that story didn't end well. So they closed it in the spring of 2024 after 3 years, from $1 billion valuation to closing it. So the next one is Rodan and Fields. And then obviously, the Rodan and Fields, the doctors brought in private equity with a TPG, and they put on debt and they had bonds, and the business was growing over $1 billion. But then the business started to retract and decline. And now you have a hard time servicing the debt, and eventually you're breaking covenants, and the TPG steps into ownership in last January of 2024. And it becomes easy for a private equity group to say, we can just cut out the commissions to the sales force and be profitable. But you and I know, the minute you look at the sales force transactionally versus partners and people, that's the beginning of the end every time. So they made the decision to pivot to an affiliate model. We'll see how it works out. They're private. We don't know the numbers, but we know the sales will decline precipitously. And then Beachbody last fall, again, private equity got involved, second private equity. They did a reverse merger, a SPAC in 2021. It was bad timing, bad deal, bad valuation, $3 billion worth of market cap destroyed. And they chose last fall to go to an affiliate model. And again, they're publicly traded. We'll see their results here shortly, and we'll see them every quarter. But I think the underlying statement that I've been making is that there's been more destruction of enterprise value of direct selling than by private equity than any other group in the history of direct selling. And there's been a few notable exceptions. I point to Primerica's involvement with Warburg Pincus before their IPO 15 years ago. Prepaid Legal has had a nice relationship with MidOcean and Stone Point Capital for quite some time. And Mauricio Domenzain has had an incredible relationship with his private equity partners at Immunotech, of which I have to say that his private equity partners let Mauricio run the business. So I think if you're looking at private equity as a way to raise capital, I think you just have to be very careful. You have to understand their motives. You have to understand what that means and what decisions you're making that are going to impact your business long term, because they clearly want to make every dollar they can. And that could impact decisions that are made for the sustainability and the long-term best interest of you and the company and your sales force.
Yeah, that definitely highlights the importance of a partnership, with any vendor, with any entity, with any partner. Getting one and partnering with one that really understands the nuance of the channel, the dynamics, the levers and the drivers are really important. And that extends into who you bring in your leadership team, in the CEO seat or other key roles. Gordon, we did a great podcast with Gordon. He was talking about that same dynamic as well, the importance of bringing in people that really understand the channel so they can drive growth and add value, and not just capitalize on the growth and then maybe move on and kind of force our hand in certain times.
Yeah, I think I said that, my definition of the private equity playbook is to, embrace arrogance, deny ignorance, profits and cash extraction at all cost. And in the end, deny the consequences. So
yeah, it's very interesting when you bring in private equity. I lived through it, as you know, and saw the benefits of bringing in capital to help drive growth, but also the challenges when they don't understand, again, the nuance and those drivers within the channel and within the field. Yeah. And as you mentioned, this did, at least in the broader traditional media standpoint, bring in some bad news. Or maybe some perceived, not positive impressions, but shifting into the good news. It's been really interesting. Some of the generational research that's been done is actually showing really positive attitudes towards direct selling, towards social selling, towards sharing products online. Can you share a little bit about what we're seeing there?
Yeah, well, I think it's important to go back and talk about this negative news cycle the last 12 months. And what that did was, we basically just gave the ammunition to the haters and the completely negatively biased media. We gave them the ammunition and we loaded the gun. So, the last 12 months has been just brutal from the news cycle. And we're not contributing to the narrative. We're not collaborating to the narrative. So clearly that's got to change. It's important to note that all the closures and all the pivots in the last 12 months represent, less than 10% of just the products category in direct selling. And that doesn't take into consideration all of the success and some of the growth stories that we're going to talk about here today. So again, putting it into context, in any other channel that might be considered business as usual. So I've made the comment that we have to change our involvement with trying to contribute to the media and the narrative. And hopefully, at DSU, the CEOs are going to have a nice talk about that and see what we might be able to do, to impact the public perception of the channel going forward. But yeah, no, you're certainly right. There's been an incredible amount of good news to talk about in direct selling. I recently did a quick poll where we took a data set of 100 companies over 50 million in revenue. And we surveyed them, and we compiled 80 data points, and it came back and 43% of the companies had grown last year over 2023. 43% of the companies had declined 2024 over 2023, and 14% were flat. So basically on par, even up and down from 23 to 24. But within that, obviously a lot of bright spots. Some of the younger companies have done better in their life cycle. But it's interesting to say that it's also been a different tale for the services community, because the services companies have done much, much better than the product companies. And, their business has more than doubled in the last 10 years, from less than, say, 15 billion to maybe more than 30 billion in services sector in the domestic market. And 90% of that is real estate and financial services. And of course, those businesses are built on sales forces of independent contractors. So it's interesting to see the services business continue to grow and flourish, and it's great to see some of the startups do well in the product category. We track 20 plus companies that are over $1 million a month that started in the last 5 years. We tracked, 15 companies last year over 50 million that grew more than 25% in 2024. Many of them much larger than 50 million, 100 million, 200 million, 500 million. We also had 4 companies that achieved more than $100 million in revenue annually in the last 12 months. And that's quite an accomplishment. I don't know if I remember being able to say 4 companies achieving $100 million revenue annually for the first time at the same time. So there's quite a bit of growth. There's quite a bit of positive things happening while all this negativity is being, dominating the news cycles.
Yeah, there are some really bright spots. Again, I've recently heard of a company that launched not too long ago, and at least through the grapevine, those initial numbers have been really incredible. The first couple of months, obviously, there's some pent up demand, whenever you start and launch a company. But I love seeing new companies coming into the space and really seeing growth immediately. I think it encourages all of us and shows us that if we do it right, that growth is still possible.
Yeah, I think there's been, as you mentioned, there's been a lot of positive things to talk about both companies, but there's also been some great anecdotal evidence based upon the survey and research of people whose recruiting and sales were good last fall and through the holidays and into the first part of 2025. So again, I'm super optimistic about where we're going, notwithstanding that many companies are still having challenges and will continue to until they figure more of it out.
Yeah, and that goes for really every sector and channel and industry. Those dynamics that are impacting direct selling aren't exclusive to us. And so really companies across the world are having to figure out these new technologies, these new platforms, these new kind of generational dynamics and consumer drivers. And over the last 120 years or whatever it is, direct selling's done an amazing job of continuing to innovate and pivot and evolve. And I love seeing that again now. I'm curious, going back to the services industry, what has made that sector, that category so strong within direct selling?
Well, I think there's several reasons. One is that you don't have the same competitive issues that you have with Amazon and the product category. So, it's just a huge point of differentiation. And again, 90% of the services sector is real estate and financial services being driven by licensed agents, and a much more, you would say, professional type of environment or atmosphere where someone actually has to go get a license to sell real estate and to sell life insurance and investment products and securities. So it is not the same cohort as more traditional network marketing outside of licensed agents. But there are quite a few services companies that don't require licensed agents that have also done well, like In-Cruises and Prepaid Legal and others that have continued to do well in the services category. So I think it's sometimes it's more difficult for somebody to swap companies in the services category, so they tend to be more loyal and stay longer. Oftentimes in the product companies, as you know, there's always this grass is greener type of attitude that we all know doesn't work out all that well every time.
Another one of the really interesting kind of bright spots and areas of growth aren't just some of these new, younger companies that are now launching, but also different segments and cohorts within the existing markets. One primarily being the Hispanic and Latino market here in the U.S. And the Latin American markets. Can you share a little bit about what we're seeing there?
No, absolutely. It's been a year and a half or more now when I was completely surprised and amazed at how large and successful and growing, prosperous the Hispanic Latino domestically, and of course the Latin American market all the way from Mexico down to Argentina was doing. And in some respects, it came down to the fact that they were a growing population. They were working hard. They loved gathering. They loved getting together in homes. They came out of COVID ready to embrace getting back together, belly to belly, face to face, doing group meetings, doing events, and just working hard. They weren't afraid to go work. And, I think it's caused that marketplace to be the fastest growing market in all of the Americas, not just North America. And all of South America is growing quite well in some of the most successful markets on the planet in direct selling. over 20% of the distributors in the US are Hispanic or Latino. And, there's more products and services sold in direct selling using Portuguese and Spanish language than English. And when I realized that, it was a real aha moment for me. We've done a great job of programming it. Recently had a DSU LATAM event in Miami in January. We're doing another workshop coming up at Direct Selling University. So I asked the question are you satisfied with your strategy for how you're going to approach the fastest growing market, which is not in English? So it's going to be exciting times for that category. I also think it's going to be exciting to watch what's happening in the Asian American market. There's several companies like USANA, like World Financial Group, like PM International, just doing really, really well in the Asian American community as well. So that's going to be a fun one to watch here in 25 and 26 and beyond.
Yeah, I remember being at DSU, sitting in the audience and hearing you share that stat on the percentage, the majority speaking either Spanish or Portuguese, and was blown away. I truly didn't understand the full extent and impact of that growing segment. What are some of the ways that companies can really connect more with the Hispanic and Latino market here domestically? What do they need to be doing, or what did we not do as well in the past?
Well, I think there's been a tremendous amount of programming at DSU about that topic, Wayne. And I think it's come really clear that just deciding to translate your English materials and take them to the market and think that that's going to attract a Hispanic, Latino sales force, or, you really have to think about developing materials specifically for the market. You have to think about the language and writing specifically for the market. Some people have decided that they need to look at products that are more geared towards the Hispanic, Latino market, and certainly in other countries where you see different products. And in Mexico and South, all the way, as I said, to Argentina. So I think you have to take it and almost look at it as a country that you're launching inside of the US, if that's what you're doing first. And if you're launching Mexico, look at what you're doing to launch Mexico, not trying to, do Spanish translation of your English business and send it across the border and think that you're going to have success.
Yeah, you have to be completely committed. Again,
absolutely. Yeah. You can't tip your toe in it. You got to be committed, and you got to have the right people. You got to have the right corporate staff to go make it happen. You got to have the financial resources and executive resources committed to it, and then you're going to have to go find the field leaders. And until you do those three things, you're really, quite frankly, you're really only giving it lip service until you can say that you've found those three and that you're going to go invest more in it.
Yeah, most companies I'm talking to right now, specifically in the US market, are bringing in teams to really focus. As you mentioned, it's not just translation, it's not just a percentage of the marketing team or the sales team's time, but now having dedicated departments, dedicated teams that can really service and support and leverage these communities and the connections they have, all across the world. Really, it's pretty incredible to see.
Yeah, but I think the more, and as importantly, is the fact that this is not just a one and done phenomenon. I mean, it is the fastest growing demographic in the United States, arguably the largest direct selling market in the world. The business of, that's done in the US in Hispanic and Latino in Spanish language is the largest Hispanic Latino market in the world. And, bigger than Brazil, bigger than Mexico. So, this is something that you really need to understand how it's going to impact or could impact your business, the next 5, 10, 20 years and beyond.
Are you ready to revolutionize the way your direct selling company accesses industry insights? Introducing the DSN Library Smart Search, an AI-powered tool that puts over 2,000 curated assets at your fingertips. From compensation trends to emerging markets, answers are just a click away. If you're already a DSN supporter, then you have access to Smart Search right now. If not, it's time to check out our updated program for 2025. Starting at just $1,000 per month, your entire company can get access to the channel's most comprehensive collection of education and insights available. Visit directsellingnews.com/supporter to see a demo of Smart Search in action and to learn how your company can become a supporter now. We also invite you to join us for the annual DSN Global Celebration and Spring DSU, March 25th through the 27th at the Irving Convention Center in Irving, Texas. From insights to action, this is the event that powers the future of direct selling. Visit dsnevents.com today for details.
As we drill down deeper on the product side. What product categories are you seeing that are driving the most growth?
Yeah, no, there's some really nice, interesting new categories that have come out in the last, just in the last 5 years during COVID, and one even more recently than that. I mean, the hottest category last year was basically the GLP-1, agonist enhancing natural supplements. So everybody's familiar with the GLP-1 market, whether it's Ozempic, Wegovy, Mounjaro, Zepbound, and just the billions and billions of dollars being spent on the prescription drugs. But the natural supplementation to try to increase your GLP-1 level has done incredibly well last year for companies like LifeVantage. Had just a BAFO quarter last year over the end of 2023, and Modere launched another GLP-1 enhancing supplement that did incredibly well for them last fall, and Lavelle and PM International and others have also were launching products. So not everybody wants to be on a prescription medicine or take an injection. So it's a growing market. But also in that same vein, many companies have launched support products for all of the millions of people that are on GLP-1s that need, they need collagen, they need creatine to help with muscle growth, they need pre and probiotics to be able to help with their gut health. So you see a blossoming business of selling support products for all of the people that are on GLP-1s like Ozempic and Wegovy, all the others. So those are big. We've also seen brain health, mental health category do well. Those products have done well. We've also seen great growth in what I say is the performance sports business. We're looking at an Herbalife and others who have gone out and put together performance sports categories. So I think those are some of the observations that I would make over the last few years.
Yeah, still tremendous opportunity to innovate and to find these very specific consumer segments from the product standpoint. So incumbent on all of us on the product standpoint to keep looking, don't just rest on, the hero product that got us here, 20 years ago, but look down the road and make sure that we're developing products that are really going to meet the needs of today's and tomorrow's customers and brand partners.
Yeah, you brought up the hero product. So, I was on stage 15 years ago or 20 years ago saying that no company had gone to $10 million a month domestically without focusing on a hero product or a hero ingredient. So I still feel like that's an accurate statement. Nobody's come up to me and said that I was wrong about it. But, sometimes you have to go reinvent a hero product. I mean, that's what Modere and LifeVantage did in the last, 12 months. That's what others are doing. Another client that's, 13 years old, launching a new product, making it their hero product coming up this spring. So again, you have to continue looking at reinvention and innovation to be able to drive your business, especially as we've already talked about so many times in this competitive landscape.
Yeah, that's an important
I, for
point.
one, was not a huge fan of the GLP-1, enhancing natural supplement business until I saw the research and I saw the results and the sales. And of course, I had to go back and do a mea culpa and say, hey, I was wrong, and I'm now a fan, and I understand why this is going to be a big part of our lexicon and our product strategy going forward.
Yeah, those results have been really compelling, and again, have really illustrated a lot of the new opportunities. And I love that you made the point on the hero product and the innovation. The opportunity doesn't necessarily live in some far off category, some far extension. A lot of times, it's just enhancing what you already have and bringing new elements to that story to shine the spotlight right back on it and to keep that product fresh and the story going. So it's really interesting.
Yeah. Well, you're sitting at the LifeWave headquarters. So, we all know the story to, around for 14 years doing 20 million, launched the X39 patch in 18 and have been on a tear for the last 6 years from 20 million to 550 million with a very, very, very concerted, focused effort on the X39 patch. So, just a terrific example of innovating and focus, simplicity, duplication, et cetera, that's driven and fueled that amazing growth.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been incredible to be inside and to watch, and that focus on innovation, which I know we're going to talk a little bit more about here in a minute, but has really been the primary driver of all the growth here. So yeah, pretty incredible. So looking at where we kind of are today, where we were, I want to look at more kind of going forward and maybe really frame it in the sense of you're a big proponent of saying there's still huge opportunity in direct selling if you do it the right way. So I'd love to kind of help sharpen the edges of what the right way looks like, and maybe within the framework of what do we need to be doing more of, what do we need to be doing less of, and what do we need to be doing better. So I'd love to start off with the doing more of. So what are some of the things that we really need to be doing more of as it relates to finding success going forward?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, I think more of is has a lot of back to the basics and the fundamentals in it, but it also is adapting to the day's marketplace, where I think now more than ever you have to be driving your value proposition with your product. You have to be driving the innovation in your product so that it's defensible. I think the days of slapping a label on a bottle out of a contract manufacturer and having the success that may have occurred 20 years ago, I think those days are obviously declining. So you're going to have to be focused on innovation and uniqueness, defensible products that have value in the marketplace, given the Amazon conundrum. And if you do that, then you're going to be able to achieve customer acquisition, customer retention, and then that's going to give you the opportunity to represent a simple, realistic income opportunity that you can have success with. And from there, the onboarding and then the training, and rinse and repeat. So I think, simply put, we need to be sharing products of value and exclusivity with a flexible part-time opportunity, in an honest, compelling, and realistic manner, where the results that we talk about are, both aspirational but also attainable for many. So I think it's looking at what the fundamentals are, but understanding where we really need to shore up aspects of how we actually take the products that we take to market, how we message our opportunity realistically, managing expectations, and then following up with the proper onboarding and training to make sure that we're getting as many people successful as quick as possible.
Yeah, you talk a lot about being customer obsessed and recruiting focused. There is kind of that age-old debate of being product led, being business opportunity led. Can you expound a little bit on what customer obsessed and recruiting focused looks like?
Yeah, well, I think we talked a lot about customer obsession, pre-COVID and during COVID early on, but I think we may have swung the pendulum away from recruiting. And as John Addison would say for decades, to get bigger, you got to get bigger. So I think maybe some people kind of took their eye off the recruiting ball, thinking that the customers were just going to miraculously decide they wanted to be distributors, and that didn't happen. So it doesn't take away that we have to be customer. We have to attract customers. We have to retain customers. We have to have a product value proposition that they want to buy and continue to buy. And I submit that if we were all able to have more than half of our revenue coming from people who are not participating in the compensation plan, that we would have a much better business and a much better channel overall. And I hope that would be something that everybody would aspire to have. But subsequent to that, you have to actually be recruiting people and bringing people into your distribution as a mechanism of growing your audience and growing how many exposures and how many people are getting involved with the product and the opportunity. So customer obsession doesn't need to be diminished or go away, but we do have to maintain this focus on recruiting and building the distribution and helping people be successful. We just have to do it in a way that's messaged in a more contemporary, simpler, more realistic style today than it was back in the bikini Lamborghini era, more into somebody who, as you mentioned, wants to make $300 a month or $500 a month because that's life-changing money, or $1,000 a month because that's life-changing money. And if we do that what I call, both attainable and aspirational, but yet realistic, then I think we've got a real chance of, going through some incredible growth opportunities here domestically and, of course, throughout the globe.
You've mentioned the importance of innovation as we were talking about product, but that obviously extends to other aspects of the business. And I know that you kind of always refer to it kind of a back to the future. So still we have to do the fundamentals, but we have to do them in a new way. What are some of the ways you're seeing companies innovate beyond product?
Yeah, well, I mean, clearly the social media movement has been dynamic in how it's impacted, our businesses and our distributors and our sales forces the last, 5-10 years. And it's going to continue to be that way. Platforms are going to change, platforms are going to grow, they're going to be built, not just domestically, but globally. So people are going to come up with all types of ways to enhance their ability to share products and opportunities socially. AI is going to have an amazing impact in that. We've already seen it. And helping someone get into utilizing social media, agentic AI is going to be just a game changer for us in the way that that's done, and helping people who didn't necessarily have previous experience or how to be successful prospecting and holding a conversation and dialogue and moving people into customers and into the opportunity like agentic AI will. I think people are going to innovate in the product categories. We've had some amazing stories over the years of Mary Kay Ash and, the Amway founders. And, we've had situations with Herbalife, and, it's sad to see Tupperware's situation, but they invented food storage in the party plan. I mean, Rex Mon and Forever Living brought us aloe vera, and Gary Young brought us essential oils, and Frank Vandersloot brought us tea tree oil. And of course, your David Smith, brought us some amazing inventions with the patches that have done incredibly well. Art Williams brought us, revenue sharing with life insurance and investments, and now Primerica, a juggernaut, and other things have happened with Glenn and Gary Keller in the real estate business. So I think we have to innovate on the products. I have to think we innovate on how we look at the business models going forward, which I'm sure we're going to talk about. And then we also have to think about how we're actually utilizing technology to empower and leverage not just our corporate activities and needs, but also leverage and impact our sales forces and our volunteer armies with the technology that's available to them today and changing so rapidly.
You've been an incredible proponent of personal development, one of the foundational elements within direct selling. Growing the field grows your revenue. What role is personal development playing in today's direct selling?
Personal development is kind of that it's kind of that unsung hero. It's kind of that stealth activity where we talk about getting better. We talk about goal setting. We talk about communication skills. We talk about mindset and philosophies. But, we introduce them to speakers and topics. We share information on personal development with them. But it is an area where, corporate executives, owners would be well served to go look at what they're doing to actually help their sales forces become better people and understand that, we really do need to work to leave everybody we touch better than we found them. If we grow our people, we will grow our business. And as Mary Kay Ash, so appropriately said decades ago, Mary Kay was a personal development company that happened to market a product. So, it's AI is going to help that immensely. What you're going to be able to do, through artificial intelligence and personal development is going to change that opportunity. How much personal development is just available online now between, the different aspects of YouTube and just other ways. So I think that I don't think it's being utilized as much as it could be right now. And I think that because so many people have other challenges and they have things in front of them that maybe seem more important, that they've maybe lost sight of the importance of just making sure that we're working on helping people just show up and get better every day. And I submit that if I get involved in your company and I like the product and I see a better version of myself and I see myself growing my life skills and becoming a better person in all aspects of my life, that, I'm probably happy in your organization if I'm only making a couple $100 a month. So I think it's also the glue, or the X factor that we talk about if we really properly utilize it and try to understand how to share it with our sales force.
Absolutely. It's retention helps improve on the retention side, on the revenue side. I agree. I hope we don't lose sight of it. I know it's had an impact on so many of our businesses. So let's shift into talking what we should be doing less of. And this is another interesting hot topic. Talk a little bit about brand monogamy as it relates to our distributors. I think every company right now is having this conversation, maybe loosening some of the restrictions of the past. Where are we at and where should we be going?
Well, it's where we're going. It's just a matter of, in your company, whether you've accepted it and are willing to understand it and embrace it yet. So, people are going to be loyal to products. They're going to be loyal to products that they like, that make a difference in their life. And that's not going to change. But they're not going to be monogamous to a brand. They're not going to be monogamous to an income opportunity. They're going to want to be involved in other opportunities to earn money. Multiple streams of income, being a sidepreneur, having multiple side hustles is going to become commonplace. Already has become commonplace. So we have to be more understanding and aware of people wanting to represent multiple brands. Now, should we try to enforce and have some type of an idea of what they can do and how that impacts, what they say, how often they say it, when they say it, where they say it? Of course we do. It shouldn't be a free-for-all, but we have to understand that people being monogamous to your opportunity in your company above everything else, those days are they're over. And the sooner that the executives and the owners in the marketplace understand that, react to it, and start to embrace it, the better off they will be, and the better off we'll all be as a channel.
Yeah, it is important to have those policies and procedures in place. And I think that's where everyone is working to define what that looks like. And as you know, my soapbox for years now has always been, these are independent distributors. This is an independent sales force. And I think it's interesting what really the big shift I think has been is on the social side, where you and I have talked about how we used to bring them into our brand world, and now they're bringing our brands into their world, and going under their brand. And that social following that these distributors have built over the last several years is an incredible asset to them, and they're looking for other ways to leverage it. So I agree, we need to do it in a smart way, with great policies, great procedures around how to share, what to say. Can you share or talk about multiple brands simultaneously? But it has been really interesting to see that shift.
Yeah, very, very, very much so.
So another thing that you preach about doing less of, and that's complexity in our business. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of removing that complexity and really simplifying and adding transparency?
Yeah, well, I think it's we all suffer from drift, right? I mean, we drift, we add things and we add things, and we don't always subtract things. We don't always say, well, we're adding this, we need to pull this back. So has our product line got complex? I mean, certainly many comp plans have gotten too complex. And the effort to simplify is so important as we look at the incredible hardship in trying to message the more complex product strategies or opportunity compensation plans, to go back to something or to create something that's much more simpler and easier to understand, and easier for somebody to say, okay, well, I do this, I get this, I do this, I get this, as opposed to trying to understand the 15 different ways to earn money from the back-flipping, somersaulting compensation plan aspects that are out there in so many people's plans today. Having a hero product goes into that simplicity, understanding how you actually build a business and having a daily method of operation. I mean, having a selling system that works, that everybody is trained around. Now, they may have nuances to it. There may be certain personal aspects that they want to change for themselves, but having a selling system that is espoused and trained, from actually the recruiting process and how I get exposed to the business, how I come into the business, how I get trained on the business, and then understanding how that impacts how I then go out and talk about the business and get people involved. So I think those are some of the biggest aspects in trying to simplify going forward.
Yeah, today's customers and distributors are no longer willing to jump through the same hoops that we had in place in the past. And I agree, we need to simplify as much as possible. Shifting into what we need to be doing better, you've touched on this, but I want to go a little bit deeper. Setting and managing expectations, whether on the customer or the brand partner side.
Yeah, no, I mean, we have to stay away from the claims on the product. We have to have realistic expectations on the product. That's just table stakes, Captain Obvious. And we have to do the same thing on the opportunity. Heather Chastain's research on the generational studies that she did with Jason Dorsey's, it just shows us that people, whether you want to talk about $300 a month, $500 a month, maybe $1,000 a month, and having those conversations are so much more realistic and helping people attain that income level so that they actually want to not only, continue to build a business, they want to stay in the business, and they'll have more success with people coming in and staying in the business. So my prediction, looking forward, 3 to 5 years into 2030 is that technology is going to change the way that people share products and services. And, I feel like, 2030, that, the ability to share products that you like with your sphere of influence and get compensated or rewarded for it is going to become as simple and as frictionless as using, today's version of using a credit card and getting points or rewards for it. And if you think about what I have to do now to join a company and become a consultant or distributor or a brand partner, and then what I have to do to then go share that and have the links and follow up and be involved and know all the nuances, and just knowing that it's only going to be a few years from now where all that's going to be so seamless and frictionless, and those are going to be those are going to usher in some very exciting times for us as a channel of direct selling and network marketing.
I agree, and that brings up kind of one of the areas that we need to be doing better, and maybe we've struggled with in the past, are those digital transactions, the e-commerce side, the enrollment. We are people driven, but we're technology enabled. How and why did we get a little bit behind the curve from maybe an e-commerce or digital transaction standpoint? And what can we do this year to make sure that we're in a good spot to be relevant all the way to 2030?
Yeah, well, it's always been a crutch, that we have to capture a social security number, and we have to have people's volume and information because there's a compensation plan that has to be tracked, and that means that we weren't able to deliver what would be considered an industry standard user experience when it comes to e-commerce, and we've got to figure it out. And I know the back office companies and some of the companies are obviously working towards that goal, so that the experience of the customer coming to actually transact with your company has to get better. They're voting with their feet. They're walking out of your transactions. They're bouncing out of your websites after 8 or 10 clicks. So I know those efforts are coming. I know people are bringing unique and innovative, platforms and ideas to the table to address that. And, everybody sits and watches the juggernaut of Shopify and looks at it and aspires to want to have that experience. And who knows what'll change there for us over the coming years. But, we have to quit making excuses about we're subpar and just not technologically at where we need to be when it comes to providing a transactional e-commerce experience with our customers and our associates or distributors.
Yeah, agree. We can't wait any longer. We need to get there yesterday. So hopefully we all have plans in place to make sure that it is as seamless as you're talking about.
It's a journey. It's a journey. It's not an event. You and I both know how difficult this is. This is going to take more than we can, Jim Rohn would say, we can get, reasonable results in measurable time, but we're not going to solve it overnight. So
agree. I think that's an important point. So looking out to 2030, as you mentioned that as a milestone, what are you seeing? What does direct selling look like 5 years from now? From maybe it's some of those generational dynamics, compensation structures, product offerings. What do you feel the channel is going to look like?
My prognostication is that it's going to change dramatically. And it already has, obviously, as we've talked about the last 12 months, the last 5 years, the last 10 years. But compensation plans are going to get flatter. We're going to put more emphasis on making a part-time money and a flexible part-time opportunity. That's clear. Affiliate models, enhanced affiliate models are going to be more prevalent, but I submit that they're probably going to come from startups. We talk about affiliate models and the pivots to affiliate models. I mean, they just haven't worked. Layering on an affiliate model to a legacy company or pivoting to an affiliate model has not created any growth or sustainable enterprise in all of the pivots that have happened in the last 12 or 24 months, full stop. And, I was guilty of pointing at Shein and Temu and talking about them, and both of them do more revenue than direct selling in the product category. And, we need to think about that. They're kicking our butt was what I said. But then the reality struck that, that's not our business. Shein and Temu are not direct sellers and network marketers and in the referral. They're in the referral, but they're not network marketers, and they're not looking to have people build teams and build leadership and organizations and be compensated at that level. And we're not Shein and Temu. So, growth in the affiliate model or the enhanced affiliate model at multiple levels is going to come probably from new companies and startups as we go the next 3 to 5, 10 years out. But it will be a much larger piece of our business. I mentioned the fact that we're going to be focused on innovation and defensible products going forward. We're obviously going to be continuing, as we mentioned, to embrace the social media platforms that are out there and unique and leveraging ways, utilizing technology like AI. But we're just going to have to see more innovation. we're really going to have to find out where is this innovation going to come from, both on the product, the opportunity, and the models and the technologies. And those are the companies that we're going to see excel and grow through these challenging, turbulent times the next, not just 5 years, but 10 years and beyond. I think companies are going to be a lot more collaborative in their integrated marketing efforts, thinking about what do they do to support their brands, both in a D2C world, but yet still work with the field so it's not threatening. They're going to have to be more engaged in driving their brand awareness in the marketplace. But again, going back and doing that in a collaborative fashion, not just blasting into retail and, basically losing all the trust and faith of the sales force, which we've seen happen with several companies here recently. So those are probably the highlights when I look forward 5 years.
Yeah, those are great insights. I hope we all go back and listen to that a few times and write each of those 5 or 6 things down and start developing strategies around how to make sure that, we're intersecting at that place in 2030 where all those things are true, where we can, again, remain relevant, command the leadership position that we can and should be occupying. So as you look out over the next 5 years, what excites you the most? What keeps you working to drive the channel forward?
Well, it's great to see all the success that is occurring in the channel right now. And it's been really exciting to be a part of some of that success and know many of those individuals, owners, executives. So that's obviously very exciting. We obviously have to do a better job of telling those stories if we talked about. But, we have to focus on just making everything simpler, more transparent, more realistic, at the same time, more contemporary. We have to innovate. We're going to have to embrace technology in a much more widely adopted way and much more applicable in the technology that we embrace and how it can help our sales forces be more successful. But all that's going to change here so rapidly and exponentially with AI and agentic AI. So all that keeps me excited about the channel. It keeps me optimistic about the channel. The services sector is obviously going to continue to thrive and grow. More people are going to get into services. More services are going to come into the channel. And, I believe more product companies are going to stabilize and find their way through these challenging times and start to grow again. And, we look at the market, as I said in my recent update that we posted up, that, the channel is $50 billion US, but 60% of that comes from services and 40% of that comes from product. But I expect that those numbers are going to grow. And I'm excited to be a part of it and excited DSN and the events and what we do to help uplift and champion the channel are taken advantage of, well received, and finding an audience that finds value in what we do.
Yeah, can you share more on DSN and DSU? You've continued to always innovate, new platforms, new content, new events. What's on the horizon for this year that we can all look forward to and make sure we're attending or engaging with?
No, absolutely. Well, at DSN, clearly this podcast has been phenomenal. 100 episodes, over 60,000 unique audience in the 4 years. And Blake Mallon and the Shift podcast, that's more field focused, Salesforce focused, 40,000 uniques, and just done an amazing job there. The DSN podcast is going to be relaunching, focusing on the content that we're putting out that you can partake in on the podcast format. But, we do a lot of other things that we've been evolving with the email dashboard 3 times a week, the community VIP text. We put out the print trade journal now 6 times a year. We have a great online presence in the website that the team does a great job of trying to, provide the opportunities to put out the right information and the right stories throughout the year. Another great feature that DSN has launched just recently is what they call an AI-powered smart search feature. So we have the DSN library, which has over 2,000 assets, 300 plus videos, 150 podcasts, over 1,500 articles from DSN. And what the smart search feature does is it allows you to go in and type in a category, a topic, a market, a company, an individual, and you in seconds, you'll get back from Smart Search information summarized on that, and also where to go, whether it's a podcast, whether it's an article, whether it's a DSU presentation from 3 years ago. And this was something that we've been working on quite a while. And the Smart Search feature and the DSN library is available to all of our supporters and supplier members and supplier sponsors. So we hope that if you're not already a DSN supporter, that you'll think about joining us as a supporter. And the patron level starts at $10,000 a year. You get to access the library with Smart Search and everybody on your team, along with a lot of other great benefits. But the culmination of what we do, really comes down to Direct Selling University and the event. So we do 2 major events in Dallas. Our next one is coming up in March of this year, just around the corner now when this drops. And it's going to be our largest ever. We've got 70 speakers, 4 workshops, a Latin American workshop, an AI workshop, legal and regulatory workshop, and a payments and processing workshop. So, that's going to be great content on the 25th of March leading in. The global celebration of the Academy Awards of Direct Selling is going to be just a phenomenal meeting of recognition and, champion and spotlighting the people that are just doing great things in the channel. So this is going to be our biggest event. We hope that everybody will, try to come down and be a part of it in Dallas, March 25 to 27. We start off with a CEO forum that we're already, 90 executives registered for. Here we sit almost a month still out, which is just incredible. But then we roll into Direct Selling University Europe, our second approach to the European market. We were in London last summer. We're going to Amsterdam, June 3 through 5. It's going to be a great event, a day and a half of programming there at the Airport Hilton in Amsterdam. And then we'll be back with Direct Selling University in the fall, October 7th through the 9th in Plano. And it'll be another fabulous opportunity to put the best stories and the best speakers and the freshest ideas on stage to help you, drive your business with some great takeaways and, great aha moments. And we hope that many more of you will come down and join us. The events are free for all direct selling executives to come enjoy and experience. So we hope you'll come and join us.
Yeah, we can't wait to continue the conversation there in Dallas in just a few weeks now at this point, maybe 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And it is such incredible content. I encourage everybody to make sure you register. If you can't make it, send people from your team. It's truly the best gathering, the best information, the best takeaways in the entire industry. Stuart, I want to thank you again for all that you've done for all of us individually, as companies, as a channel. Your impact has been huge. It's been lasting, and we've needed an incredible champion like you for direct selling. So appreciate all that you and everybody there at DSN do for the channel to bring us all together and to help move us forward. So look forward to seeing you at DSU, and thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. Excited to be here, participate and share today, and look forward to putting on and hosting a phenomenal event in Dallas and Amsterdam and beyond. And just know that 40 years, I'm still excited to wake up every day, wanting to do more and, help uplift, support, champion direct selling, here and throughout the globe. So it's something that I'm obviously very proud of and enjoy doing. So thank you for what you do and for everything that you brought to the podcast and to the community. And we look forward to impacting a lot more people and a lot more businesses in the channel going forward. So thank you very much.
Thank you for tuning in. Please take a moment to subscribe and give a 5-star rating and review to help Direct Approach continue to provide more candid insights and interviews for direct selling corporate executives. And don't forget to register for our upcoming spring events at dsnevents.com. Secure your spot now. Thank you for listening and supporting DSN and the Direct Approach podcast.